Denver police couldn't explain how 5 gang members were killed in the same way within the same week. The only common factor, all taken down with a single shot from 550 yards away. Meanwhile, the quiet night security guard Michael sat at home, staring at his son's photograph. Welcome to the Vietnam Stories. Before we tell this powerful story, let us know in the comments which city you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this need to be told, hit that subscribe button to help keep these stories alive. Michael Johnson's hands were trembling. This 68-year-old man was just an ordinary night security guard living in one of Denver's quietest neighborhoods. For days he had watched the same news report on television. 18-year-old Danny Johnson was killed by gangs on Colfax Avenue. Danny was his only son, his only family, his only reason to keep living. That evening, Michael opened the basement door he hadn't touched in 40 years. From the musty air, he pulled out a chest filled with memories from the Vietnam War. At the bottom, wrapped carefully in a piece of cloth, lay a Remington Model 700 sniper rifle. Next to it was an old notebook with confirmed kills, 187 written on the cover. On the first page of the notebook was a photograph. Young Michael in camouflage gear with a brightness in his eyes that no longer existed today. Below it read, "Call sign, Ghost, 1st Battalion, 9th Marines, Vietnam, 1968 to 1970. This man's story had never been told, because after returning from war, Michael Johnson had done only one thing, tried to forget. Danny had lost his mother when he was 5 years old. From that day forward, Michael had lived for his son. That's why he worked night security, so he could spend his days with Danny. He would attend school meetings, watch football games, and eat pizza together every evening. Michael never told war stories. Danny only knew that his father had once been a soldier. But now Danny was gone, and Michael had no reason to live. All he wanted was justice. The police couldn't do anything. They said gang crimes are complicated. They said there are no witnesses. They said it takes time. Michael didn't have time. He was 68 years old, and his son's killers were walking free on the streets. The first target was Marcus Blade Rodriguez, 19 years old, the young leader of the Iron Wolves gang. He was the one who pulled the trigger that killed Danny. Michael followed him for 3 days. He learned Marcus's routines, where he went when he was alone, just like he had done in Vietnam. Thursday night at 11:47 p.m., Marcus was leaving the drug house on 16th Street. Michael had taken position on a rooftop 400 meters away. Wind speed 5 miles per hour, drifting left. The target was moving, but this was nothing for Michael. In Vietnam, he had hit 187 targets under more difficult conditions. One breath, finger on trigger. Marcus's head centered in the scope. And then, a single sound. Marcus collapsed to the ground. The first revenge had been taken. Police began collecting evidence at the scene the next morning. The bullet had hit Marcus directly in the center of his head. 1 shot, 1 kill. Distance calculations showed the shot came from 440 yards away. Detective Sarah Chen, even with her 15 years of experience, had never seen such professional work. "This isn't gang retaliation," Detective Chen said to her partner. "This is a military-level assassination. Only very few people can make such an accurate shot from this distance." Michael calmly drank his coffee at home that morning. Local news was reporting Marcus's death. Maybe he should have felt guilty, but he didn't. There was only emptiness inside him. One of his son's killers was gone. 4 more remained. The second target was Carlos Viper Santos, 22 years old, Marcus's right hand. He was the one who kidnapped Danny and took him to that abandoned building that night. For Michael, this was more personal. He followed Carlos for a longer time. He learned the man's habits, his fears. This was the quality that had earned Michael the nickname Ghost in Vietnam. He knew his targets. He could get into their minds. Carlos was a paranoid type. After Marcus's death, he had become even more paranoid. He constantly looked over his shoulder, used different routes. But Michael had fought much smarter enemies 40 years ago. Carlos's biggest mistake was going to the same bar every Friday night to see his ex-girlfriend. Friday night, as Carlos left the bar, Michael waited on the rooftop of a building 550 yards away. This was a more difficult shot. Night darkness, moving target, windy weather. But Michael's hands no longer trembled. After the first shot, his old reflexes had returned. 1:23 a.m. Carlos was walking toward his car. Michael held his breath, calmed his heartbeat. He used the meditation technique he had learned in Vietnam. The world slowed down. There was only him, the rifle, and the target. One shot. Carlos also collapsed to the ground. Police were now in panic. 2 gang members, 2 nights, same style. Detective Chen requested help from the FBI. Such professional assassinations were usually the work of cartels or international hitmen. But this time there was something different. The caliber of the bullets was old-style .308 Winchester, the type used in the Vietnam War. "It's like someone is taking revenge," said Detective Chen. "But who? And why these gang members?" FBI agent Marcus Thompson began examining the file. It didn't take long to connect it to Danny Johnson's murder. "Look, Sarah, all the victims are gang members responsible for Danny Johnson's murder," said Thompson. "Someone is taking revenge for this kid." "But who? Does he have any family?" asked Chen. "Only his father," said Thompson. "Michael Johnson, 68 years old, night security guard. Clean record, no criminal history." Thompson began examining Michael's file in more detail. Credit reports, work history, references. Everything seemed normal. But something caught his attention. Calculating from Michael's birth date, it coincided with Vietnam War age. "Sarah, can we access this Michael Johnson's military records?" asked Thompson. "I'll try, but old records are hard to find," said Chen. The third target was Tony Razor Martinez, 20 years old, the gang's weapons specialist. He was the one who supplied the gun used to kill Danny. Michael had now settled into a routine. Follow the target during the day, take position at night, make a clean shot by dawn. Tony was smarter than the others. After Marcus and Carlos's deaths, he had disappeared. But Michael found him. Tony was hiding at his uncle's house in South Denver. The house was single-story, surrounded by open terrain. A perfect target for Michael. Monday night, Tony was smoking in his backyard when Michael watched him from 490 yards away. This shot was easier than the others. Stationary target, open area, no wind. 10:15 p.m. One shot. Tony was gone too. The FBI was now under enormous pressure. 3 murders, 3 nights. The media was full of Denver sniper headlines. The city was scared. But the strange thing was, only gang members were being targeted. Innocent civilians were untouched. Agent Thompson finally accessed Michael's military records. When he opened the file, his breath was taken away. "Damn it, Sarah, look at this," said Thompson. "What did you find?" asked Chen. "Michael Johnson, Staff Sergeant, 1st Battalion, 9th Marines, Vietnam, 1968 to 1970. Confirmed kills, 187, call sign Ghost. Sniper specialist," said Thompson, reading the file. Sarah looked at the file. 187? "This guy is one of Vietnam's deadliest snipers," she said in amazement. "And now he's after his son's killers," said Thompson. The fourth target was Luis "Snake" Morales. 23 years old, the gang's most ruthless member. He was the one who tortured Danny before killing him. As Michael planned to kill this man, he wasn't just thinking about revenge anymore. This was a justice mission. How many more innocent people would these kids kill? How many more families would they destroy? Luis had become very paranoid after the others' deaths. He constantly traveled with security, never stayed alone. But Michael was patient. In Vietnam, he would sometimes wait in the same position for days for his target to make a mistake. Wednesday night, Luis finally made a mistake. He left his security to see his girlfriend. Michael saw this as an opportunity. As Luis left the girl's house, Michael waited 525 yards away. This shot was more difficult. It was late at night, few streetlights, the target was moving quickly. But Michael's anger gave him strength. He thought of Danny's final moments. What had this monster done to his son? 2:30 a.m. Michael pulled the trigger. Luis collapsed to the ground. The FBI was now after Michael, but Michael was waiting for them. He sat calmly at home, planning his fifth and final target. Rico King Vargas, 25 years old, leader of the Iron Wolves gang, the man who gave the order to kill Danny. That night, the FBI surrounded his house. When Agent Thompson knocked on the door, Michael opened it, his hands in the air, unarmed. "Michael Johnson, FBI, you're under arrest." "I know," said Michael in a calm voice. "I was waiting." As Thompson put handcuffs on him, he asked, "Why? Why did you do this?" Michael looked at him. The emptiness was no longer in his eyes. For the first time in a long while, there was life in his eyes. "Because I had to live for my son," said Michael in a calm voice. "Now I'm ready to die for him." As they took him to the station, Michael knew Rico was still alive. But it didn't matter anymore. The FBI had caught Michael, but the message had already been sent. Denver's gangs now knew. Some fathers will do anything to protect their children, even death itself. In the interrogation room, Agent Thompson showed Michael his file. 187 confirmed kills, one of Vietnam's deadliest snipers. "Why did you never tell this story?" asked Thompson. Michael answered in a tired voice, "Because I didn't want to be that man. For 40 years I tried to be Michael Johnson, not Ghost. But when they killed my son, I had no choice." "Do you regret it?" asked Thompson. Michael thought for a long time. "No," he said finally. "I only regret not finishing the fifth one." Rico Vargas didn't feel relieved when he heard the news of Michael's arrest, because he knew that there was now a ghost in Denver. And ghosts never forget, never forgive. The next night, Rico was found dead in his backyard, despite maximum security. Single shot, from 550 yards away. But Michael was at the station. Who had made the shot? When Agent Thompson re-examined Michael's file, he realized he had missed a detail. Michael had a partner in Vietnam, James Reaper Collins. If alive, he would be 70 years old now. Confirmed kills, 203. That night, Thompson began searching for James Collins. But James Collins had died 6 months ago, from lung cancer. But there was a man at his funeral, Michael Johnson. And Michael had made a promise beside James that day. "One day one of us will avenge the other." When the bullet that killed Rico was analyzed, it was found to come from a different weapon. James Collins's Remington Model 700 from Vietnam. Michael explained that his friend had left him the weapon for one last mission before dying. "James told me, Ghost never works alone. Shadows have shadows too," said Michael. Detective Chen asked Michael one last time, "Is this completely over now?" Michael looked out the window. Denver's streets looked safer now. The Iron Wolves gang had disbanded. Other gangs had also gone quiet. "It's over for me," said Michael. "But now everyone in Denver knows how far a father will go for his child." Michael Johnson was found guilty in court and sentenced to life in prison. But his life in prison was different. Other inmates showed him respect because everyone knew this man had sacrificed his life for his son. Danny Johnson's grave was now visited more frequently. University friends, former teachers, even strangers left flowers. Because Danny's story had become Denver's story. A father's love and search for justice. Michael received letters in prison. Vietnam veterans, fathers who had lost children. Even police officers wrote to him. They all said the same thing. "You did the right thing." In the FBI file, Michael Johnson was now marked as neutralized. But his legend continued to live on Denver's streets. Gangs were now more careful because they knew sometimes ghosts really exist, and every night it seemed like a shadow roamed Denver's rooftops. A presence that protected innocent people, punished the wicked. Michael Johnson was in prison, but Ghost Spirit was free. Looking at his son's photograph one last time, Michael felt at peace. Danny was now at rest. And sometimes justice doesn't come from courtrooms. Sometimes it's born from a father's heart and delivered with a single shot from 550 yards away. Denver's ghost was now silent but not forgotten, and never would be. Now I ask you, have you ever met someone who lived quietly but actually had a great story? Maybe you've encountered a ghost too but didn't realize it. Write their names in the comments, share their stories, because at the Vietnam Stories, the most powerful stories are sometimes hidden in the quietest people. If this story moved you, subscribe, share, and remember that ghosts are never forgotten. We'll see you in the next story. Until then, if you see an old, quiet man on the street, look carefully. Maybe he's a ghost protecting you.